Right. Welcome back to the Board Drill Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. Not with me tonight is Matt. He's still a little under the weather, but we forge on. Tonight, we have a special guest, Coach Eric Tilson, who's the head coach at North Green High School. Coach, welcome to the Board Drill.
Thanks for We even got applause.
Coaches love that, right? So, Coach, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about pool rules, correct?
Yes.
So not in the pool. If you're listening, I know summer's coming up, but we're talking about pool rules. All right.
Well,
So Coach, here in a second, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to share your presentation. Coach has a presentation. While he's doing that, just a quick reminder: please subscribe if you're listening. Subscribe and like us on YouTube. Subscribe to us at theboarddrill.com, and if you can, follow us on Twitter. Please reach out and engage with us. We love talking with you guys, and from there we'll continue on. Coach, how we doing on sharing it?
I've got it right now.
Okay, perfect. All right, Coach, you go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, we're talking about pool rules today. We're a gap scheme team, and this kind of advent out of some problems we were having. First couple years I was here at North Green, but it all started back when I was in college. We had our coaches went and clinicked, and they came back with this new scheme they sold us, and it was the pin and pull.
Oh yeah.
And I had never heard of it before. We're going into my sophomore year, and they sold it, and well, came back about these rules where we can get leverage on every single front, and it works against everything. And well, it ended up becoming our identity. And over the next few years, we averaged like 9.8 yards a carry on that run. And now a lot of it had to do with we had an All-American running back.
That helps, right, Coach?
And well, at the time, we thought we had a really good offensive line. And then I go back and watch it, and I'm like, man, that cat was good. And so he had a lot to do with it, but it became our identity. And I remember one game in particular. We were playing at Ferrum. We were playing Ferrum College, which is a bitter rival of ours, and we were going down to have to score to go win it. We were down in the fourth quarter in the last drive. We're about past midfield, and we had a 4th and 9 called. And we huddled up, and we did everything on wristbands. The O-line didn't have wristbands, and our quarterback comes up to the huddle. And he looks down at his wristband. He goes, all right, guys, we're running 29 Virginia, ready, break. Well, 29 Virginia is our pin and pull play. So the O-line looks at each other. We're like, hell yeah. Our OC believes in us that we can convert this 4th and 9 here. So we line up, and we got 9.2 yards on that play. We ended up converting. And we go down, we go score. We go up late. We threw a screen out to our All-American running back. He makes about 3 people miss, and we go score. And we were pumped up. And I remember after game, we're talking about O-line felt pumped up about it. Well, little did I know at the time, our OC was going nuts up in the box because our quarterback called the wrong play on the wristband. In fact, we were in the wrong personnel, and we were in the wrong formation. And we luckily had a receiver who was smart enough to know what the tight ends did on that play. And he walked down and he threw his entire 170 pounds into a 230-pound defensive end, just enough for us to be able to get the edge. So,
Coach, that's amazing.
And
now, did you tell the kids afterwards?
Well, no, we didn't.
Good. You shouldn't have, right? That's a great call, guys. We believe in you, and we're great at coaching.
So, ever since then, the rules have been ingrained in me. They're like every bee in my fiber. So I've taken it about everywhere I've gone, always wanted to run the pin and pull. And then over the past few years, we've implemented some places, been good at some places, haven't been so good. And then it turned into its own thing. It just it started leaking into every single play that we have. And that's kind of what we're talking about tonight is all of our gap scheme runs. How do we utilize these rules from the pin and pull, how do we incorporate that into basically any gap scheme rules? So first off, talking about gap versus zone, just our definition that we have is zone
Hey,
is
Coach,
basically,
real quick,
yep.
did yours present on a different screen? Because I still have like the base PowerPoint. Oh, there we go. Now it's switching.
What do you see?
Like I see just like the PowerPoint presentation, like not full screened or anything. I can see all the slides on the left.
Okay, hold on.
That's all right. Don't worry. We'll cut this portion.
What about now?
I still don't. So what you got to do is you have to share. I would just share your entire screen of that other screen. Do you have dual monitors?
Well, I typically do, but not right now.
Huh.
Let me see. That's what I thought I clicked was share screen.
Yeah.
Okay,
See if you can share
screen,
the entire one. Yeah.
All right. There we go.
There you go. Now pull it up.
Now we got the infinity loop.
Oh, yeah. All right. Hold on one second. I'll lead it back in. All right. We're back with Coach. Sorry, we had a slight technical difficulty on the presentation, but we're back up. Coach, go ahead and take it away. Gap versus zone.
Well, just kind of going in this. Most people know gap and zone. Just with our definition is, I just consider anything a gap scheme is when you take somebody from one side of the ball, move it over to the other, a post snap, and zone is basically everybody works together. And we had this when I first got to North Green. I had this affinity with zone and just wanted to run it. And we're like, it's simple. Let's all we do. Let's just run zone. And we installed it. And the first couple scrimmages, I don't think we gained a single yard or a rushing yard in probably 3 weeks. And it's like, we got to do something. So we installed power, and it's God's favorite play.
Oh, yeah. If Matt was here, he would be shaking his head, super happy.
So we installed it, and then it ended up being real good for us. And so we kind of just went all in on gap. I don't think we've ran any zone in about 4 years. So strictly gap. We have some bastardized versions of zone to get to it, but we kind of went all in on it. And that's kind of where this kind of whole formation of the pull rules came from, because we started zone, went to gap from there. So one of the first issues we had with essentially talking about power is the center's down block versus three technique. So replacing the pulls, the backside puller in power. I played center, so I inherently know how difficult of a block that is, but at the same time knew the little intricacies of how to do that technique, and we were just having a lot of trouble with it. So we had to come up with a solution. So our first solution, which a lot of people I've seen do, is just make a switch call with the backside pulling guard. So now the center pulls and the backside guard will just block back on a three technique. So we just we get up to the line, we get an underfront, we just make our switch. Everything's kosher, and we still get exactly what we want, but we're off to the races. So it ended up being a really good adjustment for us for the first, especially that first year. Well, then gets into our just an example is we get an underfront, we block back, we pull. We're able to get to the second level a lot easier. It gives us the leverage. It gives us the leverages that we want. So backside guard. And again, we're not very big up front, and we're not exactly really athletic, but it gives us just the leverages. And this team in particular is an academy school, but we're outmatched. And this was able to give us some leverage to kind of get some angles and get a hat on a hat and let a running back go to work. Then goes into our second issue is over the course of a few years, defensive fronts start becoming multiple. So we start seeing even fronts. We start seeing odd fronts. And you'll see them, they'll even change within the middle of the game. Now, as a coach, we inherently know what the adjustments are. We know how to adjust to it. But getting a 14, 15-year-old kid to understand it is a whole other thing. So our next solution was, let's just continue this logic path. We switched the center and guard. So why don't we just now switch the guard and tackle? So what would happen for us is we get an odd front, and the four technique would penetrate inside, and the backside tackle would have a hard time with his gap seal hinge. And he would make the play on the front side. We're like, okay, we need to fix that. Well, that's just like an underfront. Center could possibly take it. Well, why don't we just have the guard take it? So we ended up making another switch call. As you can see on the screen right here, well, by rule, we'd end up having a couple switch calls from there.
Now, Coach, real quick, are you guys reading the end here?
We are.
Okay.
Just on a side note, typically all our run games based out of 11 and 12. We ended up becoming a 10 personnel team. So to replace the H or your sniffer to block the end, we just have the quarterback read them instead.
Yep, that's what I was figuring. Yep. I was like, all right, we're missing a kick guy here, so they must be reading it.
Yeah, we're our quarterback reads it. So here we're able to get the center, both the center and the tackle to pull. And again, just utilizing leverage for us to be able to get guys out in front, be able to either get our pull, our wrap, or our kick. Then comes into our third issue is we were very small and we were young. And as a coach, I have a problem with trying to install way too much. Having too many calls, it was just way too much for us to memorize. I tend to be a perfectionist, and I want to be right schematically every single time. And I want to make sure we're in the right call. We got the right check. We got the right blocking adjustments up front. And it was just way too much for our kids. And it's like I had to take a step back as a coach and be like, we're throwing too much at them. And I kept hearing in my head that it doesn't matter how much I know as a coach. It's matter how much that they understand and able to go out and execute.
Yep.
So and this is over a 4-year period. I'm having to learn all this. And that goes into our solution, which is pool rules. And it didn't come all at once. What it came down to is I started installing pin and pull, and then I was like, wait a minute, we have these same rules. Why can't we start applying it to other plays?
Yeah.
So the essential essence of pool rules is if you have a man inside, we call it inside wall, which is a gap down backer. If you don't have a man inside, you pull. And those are just based off covered, uncovered rules. Our high school kids, I don't care to teach them what covered and uncovered means. They don't quite understand it. So if they're a guide to your inside, go ahead and block them. If there's nobody there, you pull. So that's typical pin and pull rules. So what we did, an example here is we got the tight end always blocks his inside wall. Our right tackle here has a man inside. He blocks down. Our right guard is our first puller. So he doesn't have anybody backside. He pulls the kick. Our center has a man backside. He's inside wall. A left guard does not have anybody. He pulls to wrap. Our backside tackle has a man backside by rule. So he's inside wall. And I know that's technically not inside, but again, just for simplicity's sake.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do a bunch of coach speak. I'm just trying to get our kids to kind of understand what they're supposed to do. And this was one of the best versions of it. And I know sometimes like these type of talks, coaches only put their best plays on there. Well, that's exactly what I did. So these are all our best plays from the year, but a lot of it is I want to showcase our kids too, and I want them to see good things they did here. And this play in particular, again, we were a 10 personnel team. We had to bastardize a lot of stuff to get to our 11 personnel stuff. So we're running pin and pull to the boundary here. We're in 4 strong. This is actually an unbalanced trip. So we went trips and brought our backside receiver over. So this guy's ineligible. So we had ran a bunch of screens to the tailback over here. And then over here, we're running pin and pull. Well, pin and pull, you typically have to have a tight end. So our way to bastardize it was, let's go tackle over and just have our tackle be the tight end. And that's what we did. So we're 4 strong over here with a tackle over. And then we send our back in motion for the screen. And then we ran Q, pin and pull. We get our leverage, and there is nobody there, and our quarterback.
Coach, you talk about creative. Just to go in and describe it more, right? You are basically quads to one side, and I know a guy's covered with the running back motioning that way. So you are putting a 5 strong kind of, like I know someone's covered. And then you only have center guard to that side, and then the back side you have you have guard, tackle.
Hey,
Coach, don't ever coach against me, please.
It's 1A football. You got to come up with some of
but that's, Coach, it's just a great example of, like you said, just putting guys in place to make you work and moving guys around at the high school level where, like you said, you don't have a tight end. You're doing all these different things. Well, let's move the tackle over. Like, right, it's Occam's razor. Sometimes the simplest answer is the best. Well, who's the best next blocker? Well, he's our other tackle. Let's stick him over there. So
yep.
I love it, Coach. It's great.
So that was one of the best versions of it. And, of course, I'm going to go ahead and claim I never came up with anything. I'm not smart enough. But I will steal anything I find.
Absolutely.
So a lot of the stuff that we came up with is just stuff I've learned from other coaches and just kind of put it all together. Because I do think I've got a pretty unique coaching path.
Yeah.
So I've been around a lot of good people and kind of have noticed who to talk to and who to look at. And we actually got the variation with the back here with the quarterback pin and pull. We stole that from the Commanders with Jaden Daniels.
I
actually ran this. I'm like, well, we can do that on our 4 strong, so let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, they do. Them and Alabama ran a bunch of Q, pin and pull this year too. It seems like that's been the thing, especially in the red zone with those guys.
It helps when your quarterback can run like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a big kid too. He's probably about 175 right there. He's about up to 185, 190 now. So pretty big kid. But just digress here real quick, just so we're all talking on the same page. Our rule for inside wall, which we talked about, was gap down backer. So it just goes in order. So if there's a guy in your gap, you block them. If there's not a guy in your gap, but there's a guy down over top of the guy inside, you block down. Or if there's nobody in the gap or down, then you go to the linebacker. I'm not really going to talk about any technique tonight, but some people will handle this with a double team. Some people will just have them go straight down to the backer. You can do it either way. I've done it both, but just in terms of schematically, it's just an easy way. So if I just have to plug a guy in at guard, he doesn't know how to do our gallop double team. Hey, you have gap down backer, just go straight to backer. We can handle the rest.
Yeah.
So makes it simple from there. So this is a good example. I said we don't run any zone. We're actually not running zone here. We ended up getting some walk down linebackers, so nobody pulled on this play. It was a good example, just a bunch of one-on-one blocks. We were actually running power here, and we didn't get a puller out. Ended up getting a good wash. We're one-on-one, don't really have any double teams, but it's enough for us to be able to get a leak. And we had a pretty good running back who had some vision as well, so he's able to get the cutback on technically power. Another example of it, I told you before the show, is we bought a drone last year, and this is by far the best film we have. Of course, it was our first year using it, so games we forgot the SD card.
So we got another unbalanced here, right? Is this tackle
Yes.
over again?
Yeah, this is our tackle over. That was a big set for us. Anytime we wanted to run pin and pull, we'd go tackle over. So again, just leverage gap down backer with the inside wall. If I can try to pause it here once he walks up. But, well, sorry about that.
No, you're good, Coach. You may have to. Yeah, so you basically, I mean, I don't even know how to describe this defensively. You have 2-2. If you're in traditional set, they're in 2-2s, right? But they don't adjust. They don't knock over to it. So they're still head up on the guards with the backside D, and then they go what feels like, that kind of interior pressure with both backers, and there's just no one for C gap here, Coach.
Yep. So in here, we screw up on this play. And so in here, this is one of those examples I was talking about with the guard, and kind of why we went to these rules was it inside wall, guy walks down, and we consider a down lineman to be anybody within the heels of the defensive lineman. So he walks, he sees it, he just goes inside wall, and that help protects from getting a big play. Now, the guy I'd be yelling at was is our right tackle here. Yeah. He has an inside wall man, and he doesn't do it when we get lucky here. But
wow, it's the power of you, Coach. You're such a gap scheme team that people are trying to squeeze and spill you so hard that even though that guy pulled and the guard goes down, right, that kid's trying to squeeze so hard that he just squeezed himself out of the play.
Oh yeah. This is one of our biggest games of the year. This is the team that had won our region for 10 straight years in a row. Had not lost a region game in since 2013.
Whew.
We hadn't beat them since I've been here, and we ended up having a coming out party here, going up on their turf, and ended up upsetting them this past year. And a lot of it had to do with, by this point in the year, it's late in the year, and our kids were bought in, and it's probably the best we played. We get a good wall, good movement, and it helps when the big thing is when your kids buy in, it almost doesn't matter what you run.
Correct, especially if the 5 guys up front are buying in and rolling and having a good time.
Yeah.
Coach, you can spin the wheel and call whatever shows up, right?
Mm-hmm. And then to define our 2 pulls, we have 2 variations of pulls. We have our kick. Any kick we just consider is you're kicking anybody who is just a line of scrimmage defender, and you're kicking them to the outside. So we use the term kick if we do trap as well.
Yeah.
An outside defender. And again, just given a singular terminology. So when we say, hey, you need to kick this guy, they understand what we're talking about. So try not to separate like, hey, you need to trap the 3 technique. We just use the term kick.
Yeah.
So example of that. And then schematically here, again, we run so much off to tackle over with the pin and pull that we end up running counter backside off of it. Get a good kick. And again, it don't have to be a knockout block. And like here, the guy, kid pulling, he's probably 185 pounds. Our shark running back's bigger than he is. So he's not going to get big contact, but he gets inside shoulder and just runs his feet, which gives our running back a crease. And the big thing is letting guys who have the ball, the athletes in space, just do what they do.
Yeah, I mean, right. If you keep them clean, give them a chance to make a move on a guy, like that's all you can ask for, right?
Yep. And again, like I said, this is like one of the best versions of it that we did last year. We weren't this successful on every play, but this kid's a young cat, and he did a real good job for us, especially when he got into the second level. So good to highlight those kids that he's one of those that does everything the right way too. So
yeah, you guys don't even really get this clean. I mean, right? The guard or the front side tackle doesn't get across, but again, the guard gets that kick. Your athlete gets to second level 1-on-1, and then there you go. You're off to the races, right?
This is kind of, I played offensive line. I have said this since becoming a coach. Is somebody asked, would you rather have an All-American running back or an All-American front? I will take the running back every time. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be bad up front either.
Correct.
But a really good offensive line, you'll average about 4 or 5 yards a carry. But if you have a bad back, that's all you're getting.
That's true.
If you have a special guy behind you, you can be bad up front and you still might score.
You got Derrick Henry, right?
Yes. But to find our second level, we call it wrap. That's any pull that goes to the second level defender, and we're trying to pin them inside. So just kind of make things simple. Even if schematically we need to kick them outside on a wrap, we're still going to try to pin them inside. Again, it makes makes individual periods easier, and it just gives them something simple. Oh, I've got to go second level. I need to pin them inside.
Yeah.
And one thing with kind of as we get towards the end of this presentation is I'm not trying to be right 100% of the time. I need it to work majority of the time. If it works majority of the time, then it's good enough for us. So again, I didn't realize I put so much tackle over on this presentation.
No, I love it, Coach. It's awesome.
But
I mean, it's not awesome fun coaching against you, but I love watching it.
So that last play was a good example of a kick. This play is a good example of wrap. This is one of our upcoming seniors this year. I call him a bulldozer. And he does a real good job getting up second level and just running his feet. And he gets good leverage. And we get the kick out.
Off to the races.
Off to the races.
No, Coach, and I think part of what you're talking about is that, if you're listening and you've never had to be a head coach at a small school, and Coach, I've done it too, it's like everything you're saying is correct, right? Like if you got to work with 40 guys one way every day and spent 4 hours with them, right? Maybe you talk about these different things, but Coach, how many kids are on your team? Doesn't look like there's many.
We got about 30.
30 total, right?
Yeah, and we had 4 coaches last year.
Yeah.
And one of them I had to pull out of retirement was actually my dad. He had coached me when I was in high school, and then he retired to watch me go play in college.
Oh, wow.
And I had to convince him to come out. And then he retired last year from coaching again. And I was like,
too bad.
Him back out again, like, please, just one more year. And then he's officially retired again, so I may have to pull him back out one more time.
Now and Coach, obviously predominantly your guys play both ways as well, obviously,
yes,
with 30.
Most of them.
So again, like you're saying, like the simplicity matters because, those kids may only play 40 minutes of offense a day, right? Because they got to spend the other half of practice on defense or whether you go one day and one day, you get what I'm saying. So that I think that makes a really good point of the difference between coaching at big school and small school. Small school, like you said, let's get our rules down. Let's go play some dang football and let the kids roll.
And if at all possible, we try to make the rules similar to exactly what we're talking about on defense too. So we try to use the same techniques.
Yeah. And
even again, if as long as it's close to being correct, we try to use the same terminology in terms of technique. Like, for example, defensive line and offensive line, we talk about getting our second foot in the ground as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Same exact coaching point. And striking with our hands the exact same way on both offense and defense. Yes, I know it's not exactly preferred. But it helps our kids be able to get their work in, even if they're just an offensive lineman. When we're in defense periods, they're still getting the same work that they need.
Yeah, and coming from a defensive guy, if you just get your kids engaging with their hands when they're young, then you've already won. Because every young defensive lineman and coaches, everyone listening will laugh. They're throwing flippers and running in with their chest. It's like just you have these two appendages with fingers. Use them. Like, stop it.
Yep. And I don't ever yell at a kid for holding. I'm pretty sure I led our conference in holding when I played, so I can't really say too much.
Yeah, it's true.
But just an overview of some of our run game where we've incorporated some of these rules and some of the things that we've talked about. We have power, we have counter, pin and pull, and duo, which is 4 runs, our 4 primary runs that we have run since I've been here.
Yeah.
Then we're actually installing trap this year.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see how that works out for us. So with the pull rules, so we talked about inside wall, and we talked about if guys inside, you block down. If there's nobody inside, you pull. So what it ended up coming into is we started incorporating all these rules with every single one of our gap schemes. So we combined similar rules to power and counter. So we combined inside wall. So the play side of the offensive line, the guard and tackle, the play side, they have inside wall, period.
Yeah.
Everybody from the center back, they run pull rules, both counter and power.
Yeah.
With one variation between counter and power. Counter and power. On pin and pull and trap, everybody goes through pull rules. If guys inside, you block down. If not, we just switch who. On trap, we skip the gap and down. They go straight to the backer.
Yeah.
Then on duo, everybody does inside wall. Everybody.
Yeah.
So that's our bastardized way of getting to zone if we need it. So a little more getting into the weeds of power schematically. So our rules for power and counter is we just talked about play side, guard and tackle. They have inside wall, period. So it doesn't matter if the play goes to the right on counter or power, they have inside wall. So that to them is exactly the same play. So they don't really care the difference between the right-handed version of counter or power.
Yeah.
Really, the center and the guard, they don't care what the difference is between counter and power, but the variation they need to know is on counter, the first puller kicks. On power, they wrap.
Yeah.
Then the difference between counter and power is on counter, I have the backside tackle. They always pull every single time. That's where we get to our GT.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, typically we take care of this guy right here with a sniffer, and that's how I originally had it. And then we ended up being a 10 personnel team. We didn't have a kid that could kick. So we're like, okay, how do we replace that? And we're like, just have the quarterback read it.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to run that forever, ever since I saw, I'm not a big Ohio State fan, but when they had Ezekiel Elliott and they were running this, it's like I fell in love with it, wanted to run it ever since then. And finally we got the chance to do it. What is it now, 11 years later?
Well, yeah, right. Lincoln Riley and OU, when they were so good at doing that, right? They did it with Baker and they did it with Kyler and Hurts and all those guys. And you're just like, oh. Like as a DC, when people can run GT and read it with the quarterback, and then they start throwing like, RPO and like pop off of it. It's like, all right, guys, this is stupid.
That's essentially what we got to. Now you got to have a guy back here that can intelligently do it.
Yeah. But if he can, it's a cheat code, coach.
Yeah.
There's no great defense for that.
No, it's real. Our guy did a great job this past year, which is attribute a lot of the success to him and his ability to be able to handle this offense. To get into pin and pull, and again, reiterate multiple times, it's just pull rules across the board. Our tight end or tackle over, their job from day one is just inside wall, period. So it doesn't matter if there's a guy inside or not. We need that pin.
Yeah.
Whether that's a backer, they go inside wall. Now, there's some games, if you see some of our film, where we do reach the guy, but that's really a game plan situation. If I just feel like, okay, you can take care of this kid, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is also dependent upon the personnel, our personnel. Can this kid do it himself? So if he can, I would ask him to reach a 9 technique if he can. Then everybody else, they just go through their rules. Again, our rules is very similar to GT. The first puller kicks, the second puller wraps. Then it just goes down the line. So here we end up getting 2 pullers out. Let's say we have some sort of trips going on to the backside over here. So that linebacker who might be walked up is walked out. So we get a pull. Now, if there's a guy walked up behind this left tackle, he's going to block back. And again, just based on his rules. But here we end up being able to get 3 pullers out. And there's been times where we've been able to do that and get guys on the second level. And then trap, like I said, I don't have any film of it because we haven't ran it yet.
Yeah.
But again, trying to find a way to be able to get some sort of get outside flow with inside run is we just switch it where the inside wall players go straight to the backer and then everybody up front kicks. And they just kick the first man over, whoever shows up. So here's some variations versus different fronts versus power. We got our over front as we go through our rules, if you notice it. And again, just for clarification, everything is drawn up right-handed, just for simplicity's sake. So here, this is our power to our right, whether you call it by number or you got a name for it. Our right side always has inside wall. And again, you could double team it. You can just have them go straight down to the backer. That really doesn't matter unless it just depends upon what your kids are and what your personnel is. Like I said, the play side, again, just to reiterate, like we take care of it with our quarterback read. Some people may have a tight end lined up here. They may have a sniffer to take care of it. But just for rules' sake, we're talking about the rules are talking about for the front the 5 up front. And they just go through their rules. So, again, the kids don't care what front it becomes. A linebacker walks up, and we end up not pulling anybody. When you saw a clip of that, if this guy walks up here, he's no longer pulling. And so we take, and sometimes that hurts us, sometimes don't. But, again, like if this guy ends up making the play over here, it's not going to be a tackle for loss back here because this guy walks and runs.
Yeah.
We may get a 1-2 yard loss. Our biggest thing is no negative plays. So avoid the big one, avoid a big play in the backfield, and then live to fight another play.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And then same fronts drawn up versus counter, and if you notice, if you screenshot it, the 2 together, they're drawn up almost the exact same way. So like everybody from here over is exactly the same. The only difference is now we have turned this guy into a kick player instead of a wrap. And again, it's the simplicity's sake for our kids. And then another side note too is I stole this from Matt Drinkle. I saw one of his clinics online is he color coats his jobs. I was like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so we started doing the same thing, and it was pretty easy to do with the software that we have. So if it's not too much work on our coaches, we try to implement it if it's simpler for our kids. And then with the pin and pull, again, going through it now, everybody has pull rules. And then especially the backside, if I took out the right tackle and right guard, the play should look exactly like power.
Yeah.
Exactly. The only difference in power and pin and pull is that now the right tackle and right guard are both running pull rules as well. So again, it translates to all our plays. So our kids have asked me multiple times, like, why do we run the same play over and over again? We just got a different name for it. It's like, trust me, they're completely different. Go ask our linebackers if they're different.
Yeah, seriously.
And then we're fooling around with this. So trying to apply the same rules. If it works, then great. If it doesn't, then we'll scrap it. But I would love some critiques on this if people are watching this. But we've been trying to install a quick trap. And we ran this in college a few times, but never really had too much success for it. So we're going to try it out here.
Yeah, we'll send it to Matt. I'll make sure Matt writes something up, sends it back to you.
Yep. Well, it's like this right here. I'd like to know how to handle this guy without changing the rule of, because again, if it changes the rule too much, then, and you know how high school kids are, it's like, oh, we're just making a small adjustment to a rule, and then Correct. They change it on every single play.
Yep.
So we try to avoid that as much as possible. So some clips of power. This is here we're still 10 personnel here, but we had a guy here who was very intelligent, and we lined him up at the sniffer position. He was a little physical. He'd go block a linebacker. He was our leading receiver last year. He caught over 50 balls, and most of it came on plays like this. And so we end up we run power, and then we ran a flat, an arrow off of it. And our quarterback does a really good job of reading it. Like I said, we got a dude in the backfield, so that helped. But like here, he's trying to run his arrow. Guy just literally runs into the read. We get good inside wall, and again, we're just one-on-one up front with inside wall. We have a good tight pull, and one technique we do talk about on the wrap is we call it scrape the bumper, which is exactly the same terminology we use for linebackers.
Yep.
Because we want them to scrape the bumper. So
absolutely.
And then even from there, it's enough for us to get in his way and let our running back do what he does. Same thing here. We're running power. Another note is we ended up becoming same side power. So our back, if we wanted to run power to the right, we'd line him up to the same side. So that way we could read the same side in, kick. And then if we were going to run counter, so here, a power to the right and counter to the left work together, he'd line up the exact same way. Then now he's still reading the backside in.
Yep, still reading the same guy, right? He's either reading the play side guy or the backside guy. Same dude, though.
Yes.
Love it.
That's one note here. Now, this is a good example of we got a good job on the front side, and we have an absolutely terrible pull. But our tackle does a good job of getting the hands on the linebacker. And then our running back, as we tell him just to run past the trash. And anytime we can get him to the safety, we feel like we're in a pretty good position.
Yeah, I mean, the backer gets caught in the wash here. The one thing I like about same side power is the angle that the running back hits it, right? Yes. He really hits it downhill and same side, whereas opposed to when he's coming across, we used to get pissed at our running back all the time. You're too wide, get tighter. So when you go same side, they can really just hit it right down the pipe and it hits quick.
And then it does allow them to, because they want to bounce it. And that's kind of what I want them to do is they stay tight, and then if they need to bounce it, then they're bouncing it at the second level. Well, this game was pretty interesting for us because this team did this team did not have a great record last year, but they were a pretty good football team. Before we got into this game, I think they had 3 or 4 games that they lost by within one score.
Yeah.
In one game, the running back went in to go for the game-winning touchdown, stuck the ball out at the end zone, and got knocked out. I'm pretty sure on film he scored. But we don't have instant replay in high school.
And high school refs,
So I'm pretty sure scored. So and then during this game, we not only had to do a 2-minute drive to win the game, we had to do 2 in the same game.
Oh, geez.
So we end up winning with 12 seconds left. So this team is probably 4 or 5 plays away from
From feeling a lot better about their season, right?
Yeah, feeling a whole lot better. And we're a couple plays away and not feeling pretty good about our season. But, so they did a good job. We had primarily been in trips at this point, like a trips team, whether we were in 11 personnel set or 10 personnel, so we could run our RPOs. Well, they took it away, and we struggled as a single receiver being able to take advantage of a one-on-one matchup. So they were able to get numbers in the box and able to get numbers over top of 3. So it took about a quarter and a half to find a formation we like to run the ball out of. And we ended up going to a 2x2 formation. I started noticing linebackers walking out.
Yeah.
And then we went to a stack, and they walked out even further. And I'm like, okay, I think we found it. And then this is part of our 2-minute drive. And I think we ran power 3 times in a row on a 2-minute drive.
Oh, man.
And, of course, when you have plays like this, it makes it easy to call it.
Yeah, of course.
This is in that same game. I think this is earlier in the game. Obviously, it had to be because we're facing the other direction. Again, same thing. This is another thing I have noticed. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but half the time we have good plays on gap scheme, and our pullers don't even touch anybody. They just get in the way. But if we have a good inside wall and a good down blocks, we end up having successful plays.
Yeah, I mean, if you can move the 3 tech or whoever like you said, your inside wall against, if you move that guy back towards the backers, you screw up past really quickly.
So that's at least what I've noticed. But then that goes in the counter. Again, like I said, also we know all these are counter. So like I said, we were primarily a lot of trips, and we'd run like stick off of this. We'd run bubble screens, key screens. We'd run the pop off of this to the trips. So like here, it'd be good just to run our stick concept over here. So this team here, to set these up, we've ran a whole lot of power. So we'd run same side power. So they've seen power, and they've seen the stick here. They've seen bubbles here. And then we line up in the same set, and now we're running counter to the weak side here. I didn't realize I put this on here, but our quarterback keeps it here, and this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, it'd been a good time to run the stick concept over here. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I was wondering whether he pulled it or not, because I was like, all right, they hit it nice and tight here. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Yep. Everyone's tracking out the other direction.
This is one of those games our drone worked. So here, another tackle overset, and we're in the 4 strong again. So back's been over here. Another thing is he was a big runner for us as well, so we would lead block with the back quite a bit. And we'd also run our pin and pull speed option as well. So he'd work down the line, we'd pitch it to him to this side as well. So they've seen a lot of outside run. They've even seen power, not necessarily out of tackle over because we have an unprotected edge over here.
Yeah.
But if you go through your rules, we'd probably end up not having anybody pull anyway because he's got a guy backside. But we've run enough over here. We saw a few clips before that now we've set up the counter off of it. Now, I would have liked for him to stay inside the kick because we do a good job here.
Yeah, I think that's one of those where you guys are right up front. You want to use that as clinic tape because everyone's blocking right up front, and the dang running back runs outside the dang kick block, right?
And he's made us right so many times that
That's
I
true.
don't
You can't
really
get that
say
mad.
too much. And like one of the issues I talked about earlier is we were young up front and we were small. And this here is some of our youth that we had last year. This kid was a sophomore, hasn't played a lot of football. Is this guy? He goes outside of the kick. So our wrap guy, he's blocking here. He goes out and he's like, "Oh crap, what do I do?"
Just stops. I love it, Coach.
So
You can see the cogs start to turn and his feet just stop. And he's like, what do I do?
what do I do here? He ended up turning into a really good player by the end of the year.
Yeah.
All right, and this is one of the things I really like about like our rule set here is like on counter here we just have the rule of inside wall to the front side, and it doesn't matter who shows up there. So
Yeah.
in his brain, he's thinking I'm working to this backer here. All of a sudden, this guy creeps out. He notices it, notices where he's going, so he just follows his track. And again, doesn't need a big knockout block. He just gets in the way and just washes him.
Yeah.
Ends up clipping our wrap guy, but it prevents a disaster in the backfield here.
Yeah, correct. That's a tackle for loss if he doesn't go there.
And if this guy makes the play, I can live with it right here. But our back makes a great cut, and so and that's one of those things. I think the rules help us to be right most of the time.
Yeah.
And then gets into our pin and pull rules. And again, just from a personal standpoint, this is pin and pull is one of my favorite plays of all time because I played center in college, and I don't know if you can anymore, but we were allowed to cut on the second level. So I would cut the Mike linebacker about 13 times a game, and half the time I was pretty short for a college offensive lineman, so they wouldn't even see me until I was already in their kneecaps. So you can't do that in high school, and I don't think you can do it in college much anymore.
I don't think you can do it anymore downfield.
But here's another really good up front. We got a kid who's new to the running back position here. But we get a good kick, good wrap. Because what we try to teach them here just from day one is the first kick. If he gets inside of this kick, he can still bounce it.
Yeah.
But he needs to get inside the kick first and then work out. And luckily, this kid's just faster than everybody on the field, so he just outruns everybody. But that sets us up for potential holding here because anytime those guys are going to grab, which is fine with me. But as soon as the ball, they feel them pull away, they have a tendency to keep hold of them.
Yeah.
So, and then we have some more advanced guys. This is one of our younger groups. We have some more advanced guys. They can feel that, and they'll end up like if they feel this guy squeezing, they'll go ahead and log it.
Yeah.
Which is the same rules that we have on counter as well. But like a lot of our younger kids, we don't even worry about teaching a log block until they're ready to start doing that.
Yeah.
Got some more quarterback pin and pull. I don't think we get really anybody out here. And again, we got that same young kid from earlier that stopped earlier. He has an inside wall player.
Yeah. Hey, at least this time he turned around and found somebody, though, right,
Yep.
Coach?
Obviously, it's a lot darker on this film, so it's at least later in the game. I might have yelled at him by that point. You start watching the drone film, and then you watch the press box film, and it don't feel the same anymore.
It really doesn't.
But this is one of our older guys, he does a good job logging, and then our back's able to make a cut. And again, this is kind of typical, like, type of plays that we want out of this. We're not trying to hit a big play. We're trying to win first down, win second down.
I'd say 8 on first downs winning it, Coach.
Here's another variation ended up being good for us is we haven't shown it a whole lot in this tape here, but we ran a lot of motions and a lot of shifts. So we'll go tackle, because we do a lot of tackle over. We're always trying to make the defense move and their eyes move. We'll take our 2 tackles, line them up to one side, and then we'll make a move call, and they'll shift over to the other side to line up, and then rules are still apply.
Yeah.
Another fun tidbit is you notice we're offset over here and we're going over top of the quarterback.
Yeah.
I typically like to have them up front because I like to run RPOs so the quarterback doesn't have to turn around to see it. Well, our backs were way too fast. And we had to slow them down quite a bit. So I ended up moving them back away from the ball and then forced the quarterback to turn around. So they had to wait for the handoff.
Yeah.
And it was a small adjustment. Ended up working for us. But again, I'd prefer to have the back in front and work across. So we can run like any flat routes or run an RPO off of it. Because the one thing with RPOs is one guy I like to watch quite a bit is Britt Dearman.
Yeah.
And he talks about protecting the quarterback in RPOs. And pin and pull's a great one to protect the quarterback because you're taking care of all of the down linemen. So you're avoiding most of the free shots that the defense could get. And then our other RPOs we're working off we're essentially a triple option team where he's on the move, like with when we're reading the 5 technique. So he's reading the 5 first before he gets to the RPO. This is that speed option pitch off the pin and pull I was talking about earlier. And this is a good example of when you change one rule to one play, the kids sometimes get confused. Is on the speed option, if they hear the word pitch to any of our calls, they know not to block the forced defender.
Yeah.
And sometimes they yell for it. Some kids don't know what a forced defender means. So, and again, you can see the cog turning in his head, and he stops like, is that the guy I'm supposed to block? Okay, no, linebacker. And our quarterback is supposed to read this guy, and he does a good job reading the force guy.
I like that variation off of it. It's a nice. The speed option off pin and pull is a nice wrinkle, if you will.
That's some examples of some of our gap schemes with our pull rules and making things simple across the board. We're not right all the time. And there's some things that if we need a touchdown play on the goal line, I mean, sometimes we'll be right, sometimes not, but we're right for the most part. And our kids are able to, they understand it. And again, I try not to burden them with too much coach speak. And because we have good kids and they work hard, kids don't watch as much football as they used to.
No, that's true. That's true.
I will say I do like that they came out with the new NCAA game because we went to camp this past year and they all brought their PS5s and they're playing quite a bit. So they're starting to understand some more terminology again. So I'm pretty excited about that.
It's always good. It's always good. So, Coach, I know you know this one, but we ask every coach that comes on the show, what's one unique thing that your program does that, not a lot of other people or no one else does in the country?
Well, I saw you guys ask some other coaches this. I was like, man, what is some stuff? Because I've stolen everything that we've done. So I'm like, we're really not that unique. Now, we're unique in the fact that, like, we got a lot of different pieces from a lot of different people, but
yeah,
we came up with something this year that ended up helping us win a game. That team had won our region for 10 years. It won us that game. Was well, coming into the year, we did not have a kicker. Our kicker graduated, and we're a small school. We don't have a soccer team. So it's not like we can pull anybody from school. We had a kid that kick off, and you don't know where the ball's going to go, but he can boot it pretty hard. So we're like, what are we going to do about extra points? Because our 2-point conversion rate since I've been here is atrocious. It was like under 30%. And I'm like, I hate 2-point conversions because it never works. And I can come up with one really good one, and that's about it. So I tasked our coaching staff is like, hey, do some research over the summer. Find any 2-point plays we can have. And let's just put them all together and see what happens. And, of course, I went to Emory and Henry, so that was the first one I went to is the old Emory and Henry formation.
Love
Started
it.
throwing up some of those. And then our coaches brought other ideas. We watched NFL film, just any random play that you could find. So we grouped it together, and I'm going to share my screen again. So we had purchased a software a couple years ago called Pro Quick Draw.
Yeah.
And this allowed us to be able to do some stuff. So with that software, we're able to draw all these plays. And these are just some of the examples that we had. So we drew up the plays. Again, I like to color coordinate things. So if you have a green receiver, that tells you that you're on the line. If you're a yellow receiver, you're off the ball. And then all the circles were linemen, and the red was the quarterback in the back. And we kept it consistent the entire time, told them what to do. We showed it to them and everything from there. So we're able to draw it up, show the kids pretty easily, and we're able to practice a bunch. So like here, we kept it consistent. So our L and R receivers, L is always to the left, R is always to the right. And then tells where the back is. So it's clear and easily defined. And it kind of tells them what to do. So here we got a no motion. We like jet motion almost.
Yeah.
But he's close enough. And then he works back. He played quarterback some, so he's able to throw the ball from there. And just another example is we get in a tight set. We hand it to our guy. We run speed option.
Oh, I love that.
And then if the quarterback sees something, he can keep it and throw it to the backside over here. So those were some examples from there. Well, that moved on to like, let's put them all together.
Yeah.
And Pro Quick Draw allowed us to be able to do that. And I had saw one of the coaches in our area. I'd heard him speak years ago at a clinic at Emory Henry, and he actually played with me, Thad Wells, and he had showed me at a 7-on-7 of how they call their plays on wristbands, and like had pictures of the play, and I was like, this is phenomenal. So we put everything together, and well, with Pro Quick Draw, I put 9 plays on here, and then I sized it down to wrist coach size, cut them out, and every single game,
you just call them like that.
Game, we score a touchdown. Hey, band number 3, they get in the huddle, they look down, see what they're supposed to do. And also practice, it's really easy to practice the 2-point plays. You don't do anything on Mondays. It's a JV. For us, it's our JV day.
Yeah.
So varsity, like you really don't have enough time to install like a scouting report or anything, and you need some plays to run. So we're going to run our 2-point plays on a Monday, and we'll also run a period on our full pad day.
Yeah.
So we'll go on air on Monday. We'll go on go against live on Wednesdays. So we take the wristbands out, they look at it, you run through all the plays. We'll pick 2 or 3 of them a day and kind of run it from there. So they practiced them all year. Well, we didn't have a kicker. Well, week 1 of the season, I teach our weightlifting class and driver's ed, and part of driver's ed is when they're not driving, they go to PE.
Yeah.
So I go in our PE class, there's a new kid in there, kind of looks athletic. I said, hey, coach, there's this kid just moved in here. So I go talk to the kid, and I said, hey, man, you look athletic, play any sports? And he looked at me and said, no English. And so I was like, got brought out Google Translate, started talking to him, found out he played soccer back in Venezuela. And we're like, listen, have you ever heard of American football? And he's like, no. And he's like, hey, you can come out and kick. We don't have a soccer team, but you can come out and kick. Well, he ends up coming out and he starts kicking for us. And it took him about 3 games to acclimate. And we started off with kickoff with him, and then we started extra points, gave him a couple weeks to practice extra points. And also, we hadn't practiced long snap and hold either.
That's true at that point, yeah.
And luckily, we had some kids who had done it before the previous years. So he comes out, and he was perfect on the year. Perfect. And then we come out. Then we come out for the team that we need to beat, to a team that won our region 10 years in a row. And then I get a call that this kid has a meeting that he has to go to. I won't get into what it was on here, but he has to leave and go out of state.
Oh,
He's
wow.
like, Coach, I promise I'll be back. Flight ends up getting postponed. It ends up getting canceled, and he's not able to make it back in time. So we're like, ah, crap. But we had practiced these 2-point plays all year.
Yep.
Well, the
So
best
go
part
right back
about
to the
it is
wristbands.
we hadn't shown it on film all year either. So we ended up winning 24-22. And the team we played, that's all they do is 2-point conversions. They convert 2-point conversions. We convert all 3.
Yeah.
And that ended up being the difference in the game.
Yeah, so I love it.
So
that's great, Coach. Such good stories. This is why I love asking that question, because we get something unique every single time. And coaches always talk about it. Look, it could be on the field, off the field, culture, any of these things, but we love every single one of them. So I appreciate it. Coach, I appreciate you coming on the board drill tonight. It was a pleasure having you on. If we can ever do anything for you, let us know. I
appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I love talking football and love what you guys are doing. Enjoy listening.
We appreciate it. All right, for me, Kyle, for Coach Tilson, we will see you next week.